is if I just reach down, my hands down here by my side, I should be able to graze the back of my heels. So that's my feet placement. From there, I want to make sure that my lower back is pressing into the mat, which forces my core to engage. As far as hand placements go, they can either be palms down or palms up, whatever's more comfortable for you. So as I lift up, my core stays engaged, my glutes fire up, and I'm not overarching my back. So again, I'm having a nice controlled movement. I'm all the way up, glutes are engaged, core is engaged, chest stays open, lowering right back down. Exhale at the top, lower right back down. Now, as you come down, you want to make sure that your lower back kisses the ground. That way you know that your core is still engaged before you come right back up. Now you want to make sure that your neck isn't tucked, your chin isn't tucked to your chest. That way you have a nice open airway. Lifting up, lowering right back down.
Keep your body tight, flex your core, and stay as straight as a plank. And then what you're simply going to do is hold this for as long as you can. And you'll start to burn after about a minute, minute and a half. And if you can get to 4 minutes, 5 minutes, that is absolutely amazing. So what you want to do is, this is another exercise I like doing at the end of my workouts because it gives me an overall burn. And usually, if my muscles are already worked from doing other ab exercises, it makes this one a lot harder to do. So that's how you do a plank. Pull the dumbbells out in front of you like that. Keep a slight bend in your elbows, okay? And then you're simply gonna keep your shoulder blades pinched together and bring your arms up and back down. Now you don't wanna come down super fast. You wanna keep controlled movement. Breathe out as you open up your arms. Now you're gonna feel this really nicely in your rear deltoid. Make sure you keep your core tight too. Again, slight bend in the knees, slight bend in elbows, neutral spine, arched back, shoulder blades pinched together. Position, just like that. I'm gonna put my hands on the bar, and like I said, when you grab the bar, you're gonna make sure that your elbows are under your wrists. Shoulder blades are together, glutes are tight, core's tight. Now I'm gonna do 5 quick reps. So let's pay attention.
Lean over as you keep the natural alignment of your back and grab the V-bar handles. With your arms extended, pull back until your torso is at a 90-degree angle from your legs. Your back should be slightly arched and your chest should be sticking out. This is the starting position of the exercise. Keeping the torso stationary, pull the handles back towards your torso while keeping the arms close to it until you touch the abdominals. Breathe out as you perform that movement. At that point, you should be squeezing your back muscles hard. Hold that contraction for a second and slowly go back to the original position while breathing in. Repeat for the recommended amount of repetitions.
This is a very neglected point. When you're going down, your shoulder blades come together, and when you're going up, they go apart. You should also focus on pushing them downward instead of upward. But don't forget, there's still difference between a passive and an active way of this shoulder blade movement. If you are too weak in the shoulder girdle, your shoulder blades come together because you are not able to hold your body against the gravity. You can see this especially at the top of the movement. When you're going down, always focus on the tension and an active shoulder blade movement. Don't let yourself fall down into your structures. If you consider all those points and try it on your own, you will notice that it's much harder to do. Maybe your amount of maximum repetitions will drop, but that doesn't matter. Always focus on quality over quantity, and you will be rewarded with progress.
The full hang, and then you initiate the movement by doing a scapular depression, and you pull, and you're trying to bring your elbows, pull your elbows all the way back, and you finish with a scapular retraction. You want to make sure that your chin's over the bar, and you control your eccentric, get back to the starting position with the full hang. Then you do the scapular depression first again, and then pull, trying to bring your elbows all the way back, chin up above the bar, and you come all the way down back to a full hang.
That's a perfect position. She's flexed her bum. She's retracting everything, not using thoracic extension, so she keeps her abs on. And now she comes up with her arms completely straight. And again, we want these probably even more on an angle, maybe even 15, 30 degree angle there. Perfect. And back down, keeping the elbows straight. So that's one. Retract. Oh, she missed the retraction there. So she's going to retract, perfect. So you got to keep yourself honest when you do this. That's two, perfect. And we're just going to angle it out even more, Jade. So angle out your hands, angle them out. That's perfect there. Good. Excellent. And again, so she retracts. And just remember, if your traps are on, your lats can't be on. So you don't want the traps to be on. You don't want to be moving from here. You want to press everything down. So depress, that's the first part. Hands out, angle them, perfect. And you can see she's already struggling with these a bit because these are a hard movement. So even with 1 kilo, this is going to be hard. And that's why we start you with the stick on the floor, which you would have seen in previous videos, and then progress you to a higher angle on a 30-degree angle with a stick. And back, up, 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 up. That's perfect there. So common mistakes that people make is put your feet on the floor, Jade. And when they do their feet on the floor, they can move and allow their lower back rather, to help them with the range of motion. So we always put knees on the floor, knees on the bench rather, because we want to switch off the lower body, but more importantly, we don't want the lower back to play any part of this. That's really, really important. We don't want any movement from the neck. We want the neck to be in one straight line, which is perfect. And we want to make sure the glutes are flexed and the tummy is tucked under. And really, anytime you're moving with this exercise, you're retracting first. So hope this exercise helps you on your way and you maximize your gains.
Your arms underneath the bar so that it rests on the crease of your elbows. Brace yourself for the lift by extending the spine and squeezing the core. Be sure to push your knees out while driving up. Try not to lean forward too high as you extend up, and as you go back down, you want to squat until the bar touches your thighs or just past a 90-degree angle with your knees.
Lower the weight for 5 seconds and immediately lift the weight for 1 second without resting at the bottom or top of the movement. A tempo prescription of 3-2-1-0 will require you to lower the weight for 3 seconds, rest at the bottom position for 2 seconds, and lift the weight for 1 second without resting at the top position. A tempo prescription of 4-0-2-1 will require you to lower the weight for 4 seconds, lift the weight for 2 seconds without resting at the bottom, and rest for 1 second at the top of the movement before performing the next repetition. A tempo prescription of 2-1-2-1 will require you to lower the weight for 2 seconds, rest at the bottom position for 1 second, lift the weight for 2 seconds, and rest at the top position.
Together, come up, squeeze, and control the negative. As you control the negative back down, you're gonna rotate your hands back to the start position, okay? Now, with this, breathing is very important. You always want to breathe during the part that you're working against gravity, okay? So you're gonna breathe out and breathe in as you come back down. Again, you're controlling it. Bad habits that you see, guys throwing the weight up, dropping the weight down, not doing a thing to help themselves. Always keep control, especially during the negative. It's very important to keep control during that negative, during the part where you're releasing the weight.
Abdomen here. Okay, so if we're in that position, we're gonna start the descend and actually thinking about driving and lengthening here at the hip, at the glute, okay? And Emily can, if she contracts her quads at the front, can she get any lower? A little bit more lengthened, okay? So as we're coming back here, she's gonna have a slight pinch in her glutes and actually thinking about driving those glutes down, okay? So we're not rounding, as you can see, we're not rounding at the upper back. All that range of motion is coming from her glutes, okay? So she comes back down and she's lengthening, 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 okay? Good, everything's nice, abs are compressed, chin's tucked, and then she's thinking about actually driving her glutes down, okay? You can see that Emily has a slight round in her upper back, and that is actually okay, because the spine isn't actually loaded here. It's okay that your spine is naturally kind of rounded, because that cue in itself can help you actually not hyperextend and start to round at the lower back. So a couple common mistakes in this movement, one being that foot position, being too externally rotated with your feet. Slightly is okay, but too much is not what we're looking for. So again, we covered that in the beginning of the video, so if you missed that part, go ahead and return back to that. Another thing is going to be the hyperextension at the low back, making this more of a low back hyperextension, which again is a common movement that I think in a lot of our younger years we do, and so that kind of starts to ruin this movement for us. So one way we can really counteract that is to actually think about compressing our abs and actually kind of using that rectus abdominis to crunch and pull that pelvis up and give ourselves a nice opposing force on the other side. So that is a good way to do that. So if Emily goes just through one more good rep for me, going down, again, she's not rounding at the back to even gain more length, but she's actually thinking about flexion at the hip, okay? And then she's thinking about extending at the hip, driving those glutes down and not using that low back.
I'll ask Sue to slowly drive up, find her end range, and then control the load coming down. One big thing to look at with the lying hamstring curl is to not jump out of the bottom. Sue, go ahead and give me one. There we go. Perfect. So with this, the musculature that is most dominant when you are in the bottom position of the lying hamstring curl is actually the calf. So with the lying hamstring curl, we are wanting to kind of accelerate out of the bottom to allow for the hamstrings to become biased so that we're getting the greatest degree of load on the hamstrings themselves. One last thing to touch on as you are executing this movement is going to be, this is not a movement where it is just point A to point B being from the bottom and touching your glutes. One thing you want to focus on is finding the greatest degree of tension for you, holding that position, and then allowing the eccentric portion to be slow and controlled. And those are just a few of the cues that we give our one-on-one clients within physique development. And we
grab hold of it at a reverse grip. I'll take a seat. And then much like the lat pull down, I'll just lean back just enough just to get the bar past my head. But then I'll lean forward slightly as I come forward and the bar goes up, just so I can get a good stretch without me having to straighten my arms. So there, I'm completely stretched out. I can't stretch out anymore. My shoulders are completely up, and now I pull them all the way down just to get the full contraction and full range of motion. I'm bringing that bar down to my chest, right there. And I'm squeezing with my shoulder blades back and down. I'm not just using the arms. If I was to do that, that'll burn out my biceps. If I stretch and contract, that will work my lats. Again, just grip the bar slightly. I prefer to use wrist wraps just to take away the stress and load from my forearms and biceps and place them all on my lats.
It's going to be resting roughly at shoulder level. From there, you're going to strictly press the bar up overhead till your arms are extended. Make sure your head pokes through so your body's in a straight line, and then lower the bar back in control to the starting position.
Rotated in with my elbows unlocked. Find that places a lot less tension on my shoulder joint. So from here, I think about pushing my hands upward to the ceiling, holding the top position, coming down slow, okay? Very, very simple. If you're really good at this, you could actually stop here, take that rotator cuff piece out of the equation, right? Really just focus on the medial deltoid. That's a bit hard for some lifters. So you can come down to the side, just do what's comfortable. But again, take note of that tempo.
Begin the exercise by picking up the barbell and standing upright with your feet about shoulder width apart. Next, adjust your hands so that they are shoulder width apart on the barbell as well. Once in place, contract your core, retract your shoulder blades, and begin to lift the barbell up your body to the bottom of your chin. As you raise the barbell, make sure that your elbows are always higher than your wrists and that the barbell is as close to your body as possible as you lift it up and bring it back down. If you experience pain or tension in your wrists from the barbell, you can use an easy curl bar. Just make sure your hand placement is still shoulder width apart. Hand placement is very important when performing this exercise. By maintaining a wide or shoulder width grip, you will ensure activation of all three heads of the deltoids with a bit more emphasis on the anterior and medial heads.
The elbows point more backwards than outwards. When we talk about rings, we are more flexible. Rings can move independently, so you can do different versions of the exercise. Of course, it's harder to stabilize the movement, but the benefit is that you can rotate the rings or push them together. With this freedom, you can adapt the movement better to your goals. So for the most possibilities with dips, you should choose rings. But keep in mind that ring dips are harder than bar dips because you also have to stabilize the wobbly rings. That's great for your coordination and strength, but bad for your reps. It's also not the right tool to start with. So when you're new to dips, then start with an easier progression and work your way up until you can do them on a...
Take your hips out first, and then when you get out, extend your arms. And then crunch to pull it back in. You're not just coming out here pulling your arms in that way either, all right? It's a crunch.
Balance the dumbbells on your shoulder with the elbows facing forward. This will be your starting position. Keeping your head facing forward, your back straight, and your chest high, squat down by bending your hips back, allowing your knees to come forward slightly. Keep your back straight and knees pointed in the same direction as your feet. Descend until your thighs are at or just below parallel to the floor. Pushing through your heels, extend your knees and hips until you return to the starting position, with your glutes and core clenched. Repeat for the recommended number of reps.
So I'm going to grab my dumbbells just like this. You can bend your knees, pick them up any way you want. Get yourself positioned, feet about shoulder length apart. Chest up, back arch, core nice and tight. I'm going to hold the dumbbells in front of myself like this. And as I come down, I'm going to go down, I'm feeling my hamstring. You don't have to go all the way to the ground, just far enough to where you feel it. Breathe out, pull up. Flex those glutes on the way up too, you can add that in. Core nice and tight, chest up, shoulder blades together, feel the hamstring. Boom, just like that, one more. Chest up, core tight, shoulder blades together, feel the hamstring. That's how you do a dumbbell Romanian deadlift. As I perform the exercise, I'm ensuring that the dumbbells are staying by my side and not swinging forward or backward. Chest is up the entire time, and as I step back, I'm making sure all my joints are in alignment. My knee is underneath my spine, I'm landing on the ball of my toe, and as I push forward, the majority of the load is on my front foot.
My belly is tight and my back is arched, and I'm going to start by simply hinging at the hips with a soft knee. And when I feel a good stretch and load in my hamstring, that's when I'm going to stand back up. What I do not want to see is this one where the legs are completely straight, or this one where you keep going past and the back starts to round. You guys see this on my back is rounded? That is too low, all right? So here I'm gonna stop here because that's where my back is still straight, and stand. Now when you do this movement, make sure your weight is rooted through your heel. You have a soft knee, you're hinging at the hips, and you have a back that's the arc through the whole thing. Lastly, when you do this, make sure you engage your lat muscle and you pull your muscle and your upper back to keep the weight in line or as close possible to your body. So here I'm pulling my back muscle back and down and keeping this engaged, and that's how the dumbbells stay here. If I don't, they're gonna float forward, pull you on your toes, and you're gonna lose balance. All right, weight in your heel, shoulder back and down engage, flex at the hips, keep a soft knee, feel a stretch and load, and stand back up. That is the stiff leg deadlift, my friends.
With this position from there, we will ask Sue to slowly drive up, find her end range, and then control the load coming down. One big thing to look at with the lying hamstring curl is to not jump out of the bottom. Sue, go ahead and give me one. There we go. Perfect. So with this, the musculature that is most dominant when you are in the bottom position of the lying hamstring curl is actually the calf. So with the lying hamstring curl, we are wanting to kind of accelerate out of the bottom to allow for the hamstrings to become biased so that we're getting the greatest degree of load on the hamstrings themselves. One last thing to touch on as you are executing this movement is going to be, this is not a movement where it is just point A to point B, being from the bottom and touching your glutes. One thing you want to focus on is finding the greatest degree of tension for you, holding that position, and then allowing the eccentric portion to be slow and controlled. And those are just a few of the cues that we give our one-on-one clients within physique development, and we hope we find that helpful as well.
Situate a foot stand on the floor underneath you as you position yourself on the apparatus, placing the bar on your back as you would in a squat exercise. When ready, engage the weight and let the heels sink down to get a solid stretch on the calves, and then extend the foot by pressing through the joint of the big toe. Pause for a count and then repeat until failure. Going to the point of failure on calves is required if you're looking to add mass and definition to these areas. If your calves are not screaming by the end, then go back and hit another set.
Together, come up, squeeze, and control the negative. As you control the negative back down, you're gonna rotate your hands back to the start position, okay? Now, with this, breathing is very important. You always wanna breathe during the part that you're working against gravity, okay? So you're gonna breathe out, and breathe in as you come back down. Again, you're controlling it. Bad habits that you see, guys throwing the weight up, dropping the weight down, not doing a thing to help themselves. Always keep control, especially during the negative. It's very important to keep control during that negative, during the part where you're releasing the weight.
I maintain a neutral spine. I like keeping my feet together, bending at my knees a bit, and also arching my back, okay, sticking my chest out. And what you're simply gonna do is you're gonna bring the bar down to your thighs, like this, okay? Once you get to here for the first time, you wanna tighten everything in your back, and then keep everything nice and tight as you raise the bar to about chin level, okay? And then bring it back down, right to your thighs. And breathe out on the way down.
The elbows point more backwards than outwards. When we talk about rings, we are more flexible. Rings can move independently, so you can do different versions of the exercise. Of course, it's harder to stabilize the movement, but the benefit is that you can rotate the rings or push them together. With this freedom, you can adapt the movement better to your goals. So for the most possibilities with dips, you should choose rings. But keep in mind that ring dips are harder than bar dips because you also have to stabilize the wobbly rings. That's great for your coordination and strength, but bad for your reps. It's also not the right tool to start with. So when you're new to dips, then start with an easier progression and work your way up until you can do them on.
Now on to the dumbbell pullover. You're going to begin the exercise by laying flat on a bench while holding a dumbbell over your chest with your arms fully extended. Maintain a strong stance with your feet spread out, knees pushed out, and keep your core and glutes tight throughout the entire movement. Once in place, begin to lower the dumbbell behind your head. Keep a slight bend in your elbows and try to bring the dumbbell as close as you can to the ground without touching, and then return to the starting position and repeat. As you guys can see, this movement can put a lot of strain in the shoulders, especially as you begin to lift heavier weight, and that's why the warm-ups are crucial for this exercise. Now, if you want to utilize this exercise to target your chest, try to focus on squeezing your chest as much as possible throughout the entire movement, especially when initiating the movement from the bottom back to the top. If your goal is to target your lats, try to bend your elbows a bit more and flare them out. Focus on keeping your hands and forearms relaxed while performing the movement. It should almost feel like you're moving the dumbbell by pulling with your elbows from the bottom back to the top of the movement. You might also feel a bit more engagement in your serratus when performing this exercise while trying to target your lats as well.
Begin with the feet shoulder width apart. Hold the dumbbell overhead with the elbow fully locked down over the center of the body. Initiate the movement by reaching the hips back and down until the crease of the hip is below the knee. Keep the arm locked down overhead over the middle of the foot. The movement is complete when the hips and knees are fully extended with the bell overhead.
Exercise one of two ways. One way being holding the dumbbells in front of you like this, and then lifting up. Another way just starting them off by your side and lifting them straight up like this. I like to start this way. It doesn't really matter which way you do start, just as long as while you're doing the exercise, you're keeping your shoulder blades pinched the whole time. And by that I mean not doing this. Keep it nice and tight, and keep your shoulder blades pinched. Now you keep your wrists straight, bend your knees a little bit, arch your back a little bit to keep your shoulder blades pinched, and you're going to breathe out as you exert the force. And that means you're going to breathe out as you go up. So, and you bring the dumbbells up just about your neck, or where your chin is, and then bring them back down. Breathe out on the way up. Come back down. Breathe out on the way up. One more. Come down. Keep everything nice and tight or straight.
Prime horizontal row these last few months, and for those of you who don't know, most of my rowing is done chest supported, and the reason being is because I am a power builder, and what that means is that I like to combine certain facets of powerlifting into my bodybuilding. And again, this is not the only way to do it. You can be a successful bodybuilder without taking part in the big three. However, this is how I like to do it. I'm not just into building big muscles. I also want to get stronger. And then also a big one, often overlooked, is the fact that the squat and deadlift, contrary to popular belief, they can actually help you not just get healthier when it comes to movement, but maintain it as we get older. In 20, 30 years from now, I want to be able to move in a healthy manner. So I like to squat and deadlift many times during the course of the week. Often I squat 3 to 4 times a week. So any workout program, regardless of how you map it out, what's going to happen is that you will see overlap will be an issue. So sometimes your pull days are kind of limited by what you did with your squat and deadlift, and then vice versa too. Your squat and deadlift sometimes performance can be hampered by your torso being tired from pull days. So this kind of helps minimize that. Most of my rowing again is chest supported rowing, and I was looking for a new variation of it because we don't have a Yates row, which is my favorite hammer strength row machine. But this one totally just felt natural from the first time I did it, and then it does a lot of other things just without really having to think about it, especially with dumbbells. I think with dumbbells you just have a little bit more